Hello, folks. My name's DC Rockwell, and this is your co-host, Elio Grieco. Welcome to Code and Chaos, a pseudo-random conversation that starts with tech and ends where it ends an hour or two later. Tonight's conversation is brought to you by our subscribers and by egx.org. Elio, we're moving along. We have completed the Fault Tolerant vision statement. And next up, we have our mission statement. As we said yesterday, the difference, which was not apparent to me at first, is that the vision statement says what we want to accomplish in the future. And tonight we're going to be talking about the mission statement, which is what are we going to do now in order to accomplish that vision. So let me bring up our big screen with the document on it for those who are watching.
Beautiful. It's working.
And for those of you at home who are listening, we are just bringing up this document, which has three major sections to it. One is vision statement. The next one's mission statement. The last one is the values statement. And for our vision statement, to recap, we have help people adapt their skills to the age of automation through education and information. So tonight we will be talking about what we will do now to achieve that vision. So, Elio, any thoughts off the top of your head to kick us off?
Not too much. We covered it yesterday, but basically staying aligned with this, to use the business term, or I guess true to it, because we covered carefully covered some other companies that have not. So that's about it. It's just, I don't think this is necessarily a bad exercise. I think that people, when you are starting a new, whether it's a company or just some other endeavor, I think it is a good idea to do some of this stuff. But you got to stay true to it, or what's the point? Yeah,
well, we could just call it "Don't be a liar." If that makes you feel better. Don't be a jerk. Do no evil. How about that one?
Yeah, you just got to not throw it away like Google. The "Don't be evil" that they tossed in, what was it, 2015, 2014?
Right. They were like, well, let's pivot.
Exactly. No, there's a lot of money in being evil. Oh, do we really want to leave that much money on the table?
Has to be one of the sketchiest moves in business history, is backing away from your company vision of do no evil. That's a
low bar. Don't be evil, and you're like, oh, I don't know if we could pull that off.
Right. Brutal. Okay, so here are the things that I think we can do, the things I was thinking about to begin with, which are to set up, first, let's articulate this show and what we are doing on this show, what we want to do, and that is to explore. Let's just talk about it before I start writing. It's to explore different kinds of ideas, which, well, no, that's kind of like what it was. It was just like explore any idea. This time, we really want to be exploring topics that relate to things that impact people, impact the masses, impact pretty much everybody, or at least a large swath of the population. So how am I going to get a job in 10 years? How am I going to find food in 10 years? How am I going to keep my information safe in 10 years? Things like that. But, we want to always tie it back to something that is easily relatable for the audience, so that way it's easily relatable for the people they know to listen to it from them.
Sorry, I'm chuckling because you used the term impact, and I've loved watching autonomous vehicles. When people write articles about the impact autonomous vehicles are having on pedestrians, I just love it.
Yeah, I bet you like it even more when it's not done ironically.
It's one so far. There will be greater impact to come. So,
okay, so not two. I hate starting it out with two. How about provide relatable content? Provide relatable information that
my bias
helps. I guess,
Helps eliminate blind spots.
Well, let's start here and we'll refine it.
Yeah.
Provide relatable information to our audience. Well, to our audience is sort of implied, right? Provide relatable information that helps people adapt their skills to the age of automation. Okay, so now how can we refine this? Because like provide relatable information is a little generic.
I would say too, like helps them avoid surprise. You know, there's some stuff that's like, oh wow, who knew? And there's other stuff that's like, well, I don't know. There's been people saying that for a few decades. So it really, if you're listening to the right people, was not surprising at all. It's like, oh, it finally happened. So yeah, I think that's something that I try to do in the other talks that I give is give people information so they're not surprised and point them toward resources where, again, they're not surprised because a lot of the stuff going on isn't surprising. It's just, you know, we've seen these trends and some people are deep into different fields and they watch trends and they're telling you this is what we think will happen. Right. And a great example of that in movies was Minority Report. They had a whole panel of scientists and yeah, they did pretty good. You look at when that movie came out to now and you're like, okay, we're not all the way there, but there's some good stuff. And Skywatch also phenomenal. Little teaser of a film. Like that's that one. We'll see where that goes, but let's hope it doesn't go that way.
Okay. Well, unless we're going to be helping people create drones that are going to surveil people, I'm not sure if it's related, but
well, it's not as much about surveil, but yeah, Skywatch. God, I wish that would get picked up and turned into a show. Go look up Skywatch on Vimeo, Vimeo or YouTube. I can't remember. It's so good. So good.
So how about this? I just wrote down produce quality, compelling content that helps people understand and adapt to the age of automation.
Okay. The quality of the content compels you.
Well, I mean, quality is, I think when you build that into your mission statement, then you can easily justify investing into certain things that are going to improve how compelling the content is, you know? So I don't know, maybe we can just drop quality and just say produce compelling content. And it's sort of implied that quality and whatever we can do.
No. I want to believe those are synonymous, but I think you should put it back. I really don't think they are. I think there's a lot of compelling content that is not quality. There's a great article that I just read a day or two ago about elites versus experts. And they talk about how people tend to, even the same person, there's different formats. Like at Comic-Con, I used to help organize some science panels and bring in speakers at Comic-Con because in Arizona, we have real science at Comic-Con. What a concept. Rebecca does some cool stuff with that. So anyway,
Rebecca being one of our guests from Automate All the Things, who's, is it bioengineer?
Molecular cell biologist, I believe, if I'm remembering that right.
Yeah,
she basically, like a lot of tech people said, depending on if she wants to talk to someone, she'll either just say biologist or she'll give the entire title and people will go away.
I just thought it was super interesting. She gets to work with like CRISPR and things like that. It's super cool.
Yeah. So, but they had this interesting article talking about how when someone's on, like they're giving a lecture about their subject that they're an expert, it's usually better, like it's more detailed, denser knowledge. People don't really pay attention. When they're on a panel and it's more informal and there's kind of an elite aspect and they talk about what they mean by elites versus experts, but it's really weird. People tend to like listening to elites, listening to people who are popular basically, rather than people who actually know what the heck they're talking about. And so I think that's, yeah, I don't know where we want to land on that. I mean, obviously we want people to pay attention, and if you get information out there but no one's listening, who cares? But at the same time, it's really depressing that people don't listen to the content of the talk. They're not as focused on the quality of the information. They're focused on, you know, who's delivering it and what the format is, which is a little disheartening.
Right. So are you open to reading some of the other company's mission statements without getting us in legal trouble?
I will try to hold my tongue or mute my microphone. Go
right
ahead.
All right. You know, you can flail your arms all you want as long as the mic is muted. So I'm going to start with these. And these are a couple of, sorry, I had have a sound going on in the background. Took it off. It's gone.
You're reminding me. I used to have an automation set up, and whenever we had an episode we were recording on the calendar, it would automatically silence my phone, and I need to set that back up. Let me just put this thing on silent right now.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks Facebook for that sound. So we have 18. This is from an article from blueleads.com that says 18 inspiring mission statement examples that captivate people. Okay. Let's see what we got here. Number 1 is one of Elio's very favorite companies, Microsoft. Our mission is to empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. I thought that was their vision statement. So hold on, Microsoft vision statement. I when we were doing the vision statement yesterday, it was almost the same thing. Okay, their vision is to help people and businesses throughout the world realize their full potential, and their mission is to empower every person and organization on the planet to achieve more. Okay,
Are you saying they copied their mission statement and their vision statement, just one's a copy of the other?
They acquired, extended, and will maybe possibly extinguish their vision statement with this.
Through Microsoft. True. Yeah. Like they're staying true to brand.
All right. So Nordstrom, to give customers the most compelling shopping experience possible. Okay. Southwest Airlines is the mission.
Wait a minute. I want to pause on that. Compelling. What is a compelling shopping? It's one of those things that sounds good, but what does that mean when you have a compelling shopping experience?
Let's look it up. I want to see the actual definition of compelling, because you're right.
I'm looking that up right now.
It's evoking interest, attention, or admiration in a powerfully irresistible way. I don't know. Now that I feel like creating compelling content has sort of like this dark undertone.
There's a more sinister, if you read to the third definition, not able to be resisted, overwhelming.
That's what I'm saying, is compelling seems to have a dark undertone where it's like we're going to change your mind. If you don't like it, we'll find a way for you to like it. I don't know if I like the word compelling anymore. Do we want to change compelling to, say, quality interesting content?
Interesting, informative. Yeah, I don't know what you want to like. Again, this is something I feel companies don't do, is bust out the dictionary. It's not that hard. You literally just type in a word, definition pops up. It's not like you have to go flipping through pages anymore. And it's amazing. There was one company that used a word, avidity was the word, and good company, but avidity. So the first one is extreme eagerness or enthusiasm. But if you look up other definitions, an alternate definition is like all-consuming greed. I mean, yeah, the eagerness thing is good, but the problem is when you're choosing words to represent your company, I would say it's like choosing a name for a child. If you're hopefully a good, thoughtful parent, look at all of the possible ways you could make fun of that name. Look at all of the possible meanings. And even if, again, extreme eagerness or enthusiasm, that's good. Maybe check more than one dictionary, and oh wait, it also means all-consuming greed. So it has a good meaning and a bad meaning, but the bad meaning is the one that's going to be problematic. So maybe choose a different word. Bust out the thesaurus and find an alt.
I already did. I'm already ahead of you. So I'm thinking we change compelling to fascinating, and here's why. Fascinating means extremely interesting, or draw irresistibly the attention and interest of someone. See, that seems like the same thing as compelling.
Okay with that. I don't know. I think it feels less.
Draw irresistibly. You want to go with irresistible?
Let's see.
Isn't that why we don't like?
Interesting. Archaic, especially of a snake. Deprive a person or animal of the ability to resist or escape by the power of a look or gaze.
You know what a synonym of fascinating is? What's coercive. Maybe not fascinating. I like the sound of it, but if we're going, I want the words to mean something, So, okay, fine. We're going to look for new. There's alluring, appealing. Appealing. Quality appealing content. I kind of like appealing. Let's look at the definition of appealing here. It's going to say attractive or interesting, showing that someone wants to help or sympathy.
There you go.
Make a serious or urgent request.
I think that's good.
Apply to a higher court for the reversal of a decision of a lower court.
No, that's an appeal, but yeah.
Okay. So
hey,
I like
it's a court of opinion. We're applying. Oh, you think blockchain's good? We'd like to appeal that decision.
Yeah, I like this. So produce quality, appealing content that helps people understand and adapt to the age of automation.
Seriously, this is like 15 minutes, and not all of it we spent on this. Like, if you're making a company vision statement, bust out the friggin' dictionary. It's not that hard.
So one thing I noticed is that the mission statements all start with 2. It's, what is your mission? Our mission is to. And so I think we're going to do to produce quality, appealing content that helps people understand and adapt to the age of automation. I think it sounds good. And it sounds like it's in alignment with the vision statement entirely. And the only question now is there anything missing from it? Or, because I mean, the other mission statements, first off, do you have to have one mission statement? Can you have more than one mission? You know? What do you think? Have you ever heard of a company? Can a company have more
I don't know about a company, but
one
the church
mission statement?
I got a lot more than one mission.
Okay. Let's see here.
I would leave it to one.
How many mission statements do you need? That's the question. Can a company have 2 mission statements? It says, keep it short. If your mission and vision statements have a clear focus, they don't need to be multiple pages in length. Well, okay, we're not going to do multiple pages, but okay, cool. I think it's fine. Okay. So then the question is, are we missing anything from this mission statement? Is there anything else we want to articulate, or is this good? And what do you think of the comma?
I'm okay with the comma. I think it's fine. I don't have any other stuff that's jumping to mind. I think it's fine. I think that's where we leave it right now. And on to the value statement. Look at that. It didn't even take a whole episode. It took just a few minutes.
Wow.
Apparently you and I start possible.
Yeah, but if you and I start agreeing with each other, we're not going to have any content.
Indeed.
Okay, let's move on. So turns out tonight, we're not just talking about our mission statement because I'm ready to commit to this. Is this something you could commit to? I know you just said you did, but we're making it official.
Put it on the record. Okay.
Now prick your finger and blood oath. There we go.
Just don't do the opposite or we'll be censored. Demonetized.
Wow.
I'm stealing that from Carlin. If you haven't listened to George Carlin,
hey, you know what?
Go listen to all the Carlin.
I think that statement is appealing content. So you were in line with our mission statement. So I'm okay with that. So values statement is what we're on to next. And a values statement for a company is a code of ethics. So this is where you'll have multiple values, not just one. And so let's bring up some examples.
I feel like we should be saying, just generally for companies, you'll have 0 or more values.
Well, some companies, yeah. I think for a lot of companies, their values are, in fact, just a part of their marketing. I have, in fact, worked at several companies, including the one I'm working at now, where they really seem to actually practice what they're doing. One company I interviewed for had a very interesting way that they came up with their value statement. They actually invited all of the significant others of the people that were working for them and starting the company, and had them go out to this retreat and then had the significant others come up with what values they wanted them to have. And I thought
that's actually pretty cool.
It is really cool. I thought it was super neat. And then from then on, they said that values don't mean anything unless you practice them. And so all company activities had to fall under one of those values. And it was basically you practiced it in each of the company, activities.
Cool.
Things like instead of just having a happy hour, for example, they would create they would create some sort of an event. I didn't get to work there. They didn't take me. I didn't meet their values, maybe. But my understanding through the interview was that they would have folks go out, and every one of their events were to reinforce and practice one of those values. So I thought it was very cool, a very neat way to be able to truly practice what they were preaching, and none of it was just for marketing. So, and certainly the people there, when I was speaking to them, they seemed like very healthy, very rounded professionals, and I think it helps people grow, the people who are working there. So that said, there's common company values. There are things that you're going to hear at many different companies: integrity, boldness, honesty, fairness, trustworthiness, accountability, learning, customer experience, things like that. But, and maybe we do want some of those, but I want to think, I really liked the example of that company I interviewed for, and I'd really like to reverse engineer that a little bit and say, what are the values we want to practice every day? And that will truly be the alignment for all of our activities. So when we schedule a meeting, for example, we'll know what values we are scheduling it under. If we fly out to do something, it's because we are maybe one of our values would be like hardworking or something like that. Although I hate that one. Hardworking, smart working. I like that one.
Yeah.
So how about work smart? I think that's a good start. And code of ethics, though. That's the other thing. I don't know if this is the same thing as what we started out with, because the code of ethics doesn't seem to be the same thing as like work smart. Is that work ethic? Does that still apply?
I think that's
there?
a different thing. I think
Right.
code of ethics is like what you're willing to do, so for instance, a lot of companies on the internet, everything, and I was just browsing headlines here, Avast, among many others, apparently is now selling its users' data. So, to me, that's unethical. If you didn't tell people you were going to sell their data when they first signed up, you have no right to sell their data now. So even if you change your terms of service, again, the data they gave you was not given under the new terms. It was given under the old terms. That's not honorable. That's a dishonorable thing to do. It's disgusting.
Do you think maybe we should have a value statement and a code of ethics?
Yeah, I mean, define what exactly is the difference between the two. Not that there isn't, but
like work smart would be a value, and our code of ethics would be things like do good, don't do harm, let the individual maintain control, like autonomy, justice, things like that. That would be under the code of ethics.
In our case right now, we're not providing code or services or anything. We're just providing, media. So I don't think like the autonomy part, we kind of have that since we do some interactive stuff, but
sure, but
it's not like providing a service right now. But yeah, I'm okay putting it in there just in case we ever do. So
I'm just thinking forward a little bit. What would be the actual first hire that we would do? What position would we really plausibly want? And I'm thinking somebody who could do our thumbnails for us and prepare the content afterwards. So somebody who's
scheduling
yeah, okay. I think that might be the second thing. The most important thing right now is that if we could just record these and have those thumbnails already created, have all of the stuff inputted into Spreaker and YouTube and all the different applications we need them into, and Facebook, then I think that would be the highest value thing that I would actually possibly be open to paying somebody to do that right away, actually. So if you're out there and you know
Job
how to
offer.
use, if you know how to use Illustrator, and this would be a very part-time job because there's only 3 episodes a week, but we do need somebody who can put together, based upon a template we already have for our Illustrator thumbnails, put together those graphics and then crop out, the audio into an MP3 using Premiere. So you'd need, your own Adobe Creative Suite subscription, which isn't too expensive. So if you already got that, that would make sense. I'm not sure if it's legal for me to share mine, so I don't think that's in the deal. But if you're interested out there,
not so much.
Yeah, let us know.
That's why open source is awesome.
We will talk about it. I'm not sure exactly, how much it's worth to anybody, but why don't you tell me how much it's worth to you to create some thumbnails, to upload the stuff to about 3 different websites. So it would be uploading stuff to YouTube. It would be uploading it to Facebook, uploading it to Spreaker, which is just uploading an MP3 of it. So you'd need to cut out the audio and render out the video while cropping out the beginning and the end of the dead space. And then I really want somebody who's going to do the chapter markers. But I'm not sure if that's something that's going to be super easy for somebody else to do, since it's, I don't know. Okay. Anyway,
consuming to do.
Yeah, I think
done a few.
We'll talk more about that at another time. But anyway, the point I was trying to make was I could see us actually bringing somebody else into this mix fairly soon, and that would make it so, for example, autonomy does apply, because we wouldn't want to micromanage that person and tell them how they should do everything exactly.
Yeah.
We just want to tell them what the goal is and let them do it. Tell them when we need it by, and they get to manage everything on their own, especially since they would be a contractor, since I can't afford to actually hire somebody as an employee. But I think autonomy sort of makes some sense.
You and every other billion-dollar business today.
No, I as soon as we're...
No, I know in our case it's actually legit. We don't have the funding yet to pay benefits and all that, but yeah, it's ridiculous. You have all these multi-billion-dollar companies that are trying to shove everyone over that law that just passed in California, and they're like, "Oh, you're all contractors now, so we don't have to give you any benefits."
Our net revenue for this year, I guess if you include 2020 and 2021, our net revenue so far is about negative $12,000. So I don't think that we're in a position to be hiring.
Kids. Yeah, great way to lose money.
Oh yeah. But listen to how nice this mic sounds. So, okay, so let's get back on track. Let's talk. I think there's values, and then there's also a code of ethics. So let's put that in there. And there we go. So our values statement are, what kind of values do we want folks to have? What kind of values do we have that we want? I realize this sounds so it sounds so like egotistical when I'm saying this out loud, though. I'm just like, what are our values, and how do we impose them on others? I don't know. Work smart seems to be a good idea, but like, what does that mean? I don't want to write this stuff down without there being like a subsection that explains what the heck that is. Like, what does that mean for somebody? I don't want people to figure out our values. They should either be totally self-apparent, or they should just probably not be on here, or they should have an explanation or something. So what does work smart mean? Keep in mind, I'm not committed to work smart being one of our values. It's just like the first one I could think of. We can take it off.
To me, that would be accomplishing whatever task to a high quality standard with as little effort as possible.
Right. Okay.
So
I like that. So accomplish. Well, is it like 3 things, or you mean accomplish the task?
Whatever task you're trying to do, get it done well. Again, you can't leave the quality off there. It's not just being lazy. but there are optimizations that, to me, the difference between working smart and laziness is, are you still getting it done? Are you creating a good, whatever you're trying to do, whether it's knowledge product, whether it's a physical thing, if you find a faster way to make it, like, that's innovation. That's what you should be doing. You should not be, burning a ton of time and really grinding yourself, doing stuff a stupid way. Like, find a better, quicker way to do it, as long as the quality stays the same or gets better. It's only if the quality suffers that you're not working smart. Now you're just being lazy.
Okay, so accomplish the task on time at our standard of quality with the least amount of effort.
Yeah.
That almost sounds to me like we want you to do a great job, but we don't want you to spend too much time. We don't want to pay for too many hours.
Well, conversely, like, I think in programming the other way is, and this is either pro or con, but yeah, I've spent time on, like, you were just calling me out earlier. You're like, dude, you spent a lot of time screwing around curating videos last night. And I'm like, well, yeah, because I'm working on code to curate. I have 5,000 videos that I've pulled down and growing on my drive in many, many categories. And we have a channel. Actually, maybe I should open that up. I don't know if I have that open to the world right now, but there's a Keybase group called Film Festival that I started. And I just wanted to share, like, I have some really cool short films in all different categories. And some are horror, and some are super graphic, and some are totally suitable for kids, and some are animated, some are live action. They're all over the place. Some are just computer stuff. They're great talks, like, what was it? Simple Made Easy. The Mess We're In by Joe Armstrong. Like, there's all different stuff. There's 5,000 of them, and finding the video I need is problematic. And so I've done some interesting tweaks with YouTube DL to download some metadata. I have a very particular way of naming the file. I have ways of finding files that aren't following the naming convention, so I don't necessarily have all the data they need. I have not gotten to the point of, I know what I want to do, but I want to, like, be able to look at the name of the file and the metadata and make sure they line up. And if they don't, figure out how to go get that. And so I put a lot of time in. And so, yeah, like, spending an extra few hours, even though if you just manually did the task, maybe it would just take you 30 minutes. But then if you write a script to do it, well, maybe it takes you 2 hours to do that. So it's taken 4 times longer to do it that time. But if you do a good job and you write a script that's reusable, like, I have one script that I use constantly that it wasn't even that big. It's a little command line script, and it takes markdown links and it turns those into just title, and then below that, the URL. Maybe it would just take you 30. And so, whoops, little audio loop there.
Sorry about that.
So I have a little thing where I use Markdown extensively in all my records, and then I also use it. I could copy out all my tabs as Markdown links, or some of them, or whatever. But when I paste Markdown into Keybase and LinkedIn and all these other things, it doesn't understand Markdown, so it doesn't look great. So I have this little thing where I can just throw a set of links at it, and I can say, yeah, just here, make these something that's suitable for LinkedIn or Keybase or whatever. And then I have another one that if I just have raw links, then I can turn those. It'll actually go and automatically fetch the titles from each link. And then I can use that. I can chain these together and say, go get me all the raw links, turn those into links with titles, and then turn them into either Markdown or a format suitable for just plain text posting. And so, again, it took me a little time to build some of this, not a lot, but yeah, some of them I've tweaked, and I'm like, oh, it fails when this happens. Okay. Oh, when that fails, the whole thing just stops. Okay, let me put that in an anonymous function. So if the one part craps out, it just skips that one and the rest keeps going. And it's taken a little while to tweak it, but man, does it save me a ton of time right now. Like, now it's to the point where I can grab this whole bunch of links and just boom, done. And instead of, now it would have taken me to go get all those links and clean them up and post them somewhere. If there's like 20 links, that might take me, like a minute per link to go clean everything up. And that's 20 minutes. And I can just grab them. And now in like 5 to 10 seconds with this script, they're ready to go. Just clean little, just like on YouTube, on Vimeo, delete that stuff. I haven't automated that part yet. And so that's the kind, when I say work smart, it's partly reducing effort, but it's also, I think, making investments. I use the term pain-driven programming, where, okay, what hurts in terms of like what's wasting your time? What is awful to deal with? Identify the pain and then write scripts that alleviate the pain. And when you do pain-driven programming, you start with just awful process that's really, really slow and cumbersome. And then eventually, you just keep looking at, okay, what's wasting most of my time? What do I hate doing right now? Can I automate that? can I automate enough of it where the pain goes away? And then what's the next thing? It's wasting most of my time. And you end up with a really practical tool set that saves you a ton of time. Let's see, you got a great graphic up here.
So this is from X. While you're saying this, President Obama in our chat, his name is President Obama. I presume it is, in fact, the actual former president.
Of course, no one ever lies online. It has to be. That's the law.
Former President Obama, we are honored to have you here in our chat. He suggested that we bring up the XKCD cartoon on automation. It says, in theory, it says, I spend a lot of time on this task. I should write a program automating it. And in theory, you should write some code which initially costs you a little bit more work and a little bit of time, but then the automation takes over and you have all this free time. But in reality, you write the code, you start debugging it, then you rethink it, and then you have ongoing development for the rest of your life. So that's that part again, of my experience.
There is truth to that. And yeah, there is a fine line between pain-driven development where you're just making quick little tools that are robust enough to, solve the task. And that's the other thing is, just like Elon Musk screwed up, if you try to fully automate stuff, you kind of have to know how much can I automate quickly. And there's kind of the 80-20 rule where some stuff you can automate enough of it quickly where 80% of the task is now automated, but you still have to go manually, do the last little bit and clean stuff up. And it speeds you up a lot. But then the effort to try to really get 100% of the use cases working all the time, that's where you get into that second graph on the XKCD comic, where now you're just constantly tweaking. And, oh, man, that title has that character in it that one time. And instead of, because there's always going to be someone who does something cute and they put some kind of weird high-bit Unicode character in the title, and it just wrecks everything. So like my video files have like parentheses at the end, and it says the source and then the ID, which allows me to recreate the original URL. And someone's going to put parentheses in the title, and it's going to throw off my regular expression and then do the wrong thing. But it's not worth fixing that necessarily if it just happens once.
Okay, well, speaking of pain-driven development, we spent 10 minutes on one value. So let's see if we can get another one tonight. So I agree, accomplishing the task on time at a high standard of quality with the least amount of effort is definitely one of the values that we want. It's just because, at our core in our roots is automating all the things, so that's part of it. All right. So
I would say, be honest.
That's going to be a code of ethics, but I'll put it down here.
Throw that in
there. Sure. Be honest. I like that a lot.
And if you want to enumerate, like we just talked about with Avast and all these other companies that are like, oh, we're going to sell all your data now because, hey, money, right? Like, don't do anything behind the user's back. Don't do anything. If we have people who start signing up for not just subscribing, but if we set up a separate mailing list and they share their email addresses with us, like, I would not be okay if we just, without giving any kind of notice or any kind of, not even opt out, it has to be opt in. If we were like, hey, we want to sign you up for this other thing we're doing, it's like, okay, that's not real cool, right? Like, everyone gets a ton of junk and a ton of spam and ham in their email folder. So if we were going to do that, we would have to send out an email saying, hey, if you would like to click here to sign up for this other thing, or if you would like to go here, I would rather a company say, hey, please sign up. Now you get lower conversion numbers, which is why they just opt you in and give you, quote, the ability to opt out, because the numbers look better. But I find it sleazy. I find it sketchy as hell.
Okay. So being honest to ourselves and our audience.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, so I got the values thing. So how do we put this? Don't fixate on the metrics. Don't take shortcuts just to boost metrics.
Don't take shortcuts.
Well, no, we're saying to take shortcuts above.
Yeah,
but
right.
What we want to do is you want to achieve the goal, not game the metrics. And
okay, so results oriented.
Results are goal oriented rather than metrics oriented.
Goals, well, metrics are, I don't think metrics are something to orient to. They're simply there. They are simply there as guidelines. And sometimes you have to go over them. Sometimes you have to ignore them. Sometimes they're, for example, we have some metrics for the show so far, but we don't have enough enough samples in it for us to draw any kind of conclusions on it. We don't have enough people commenting for us to, give too much weight to any particular comment. There are some individuals who have been with this show for now over 6 years. Angry Knee, Sakello, and Knifin, Hugh.
Oh, you named them. Now you're going to miss someone, and now they're going to be pissed.
I've done this before, and you're right. You never name them.
I mean, you got 4 good shout outs there, but I'm sure there's a 5th person that's like, are you kidding me?
Let me bring up the Discord now so we can actually get them all. But yeah, I mean, Charties and oh boy, Uniform. There's a bunch of folks who, they've all been very Carolus. I haven't seen him in forever. Remember Carolus?
Yeah.
Yan Eves. Those folks have a lot of weight. And they have weight just because they have been essentially part of this, they're our super fans, they're the folks who know us the best.
And I gotta say, when you pitched this idea years ago, I was like, oh, live comments, huh? End of the YouTube comments section. But I gotta say, there's most of the time we've had obviously a few people that come in and try just being morons and trolling and just bounce them out, just out you go. But yeah, the people you just mentioned and a few others, it's amazing. We've gotten some really good comments when we talked about doing this again. We're like, do we want to still have live comments? Do we want to still broadcast to Twitch or just jump to YouTube, or what platform is most conducive to what we're doing? And we're like, yeah, no, let's keep it going with Twitch as well, because man, just some of the, like I said, some really insightful stuff that's really helped drive the conversation forward in a very good, not just a positive way, but a really it added more to the conversation.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I'd miss them too. I like them. All right, so how about results over metrics?
Yeah, thinking about that.
That's the face of Elio's about to trash this entirely.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm thinking about that, but it always goes to what are you focusing on, what are you measuring, and that's where people go wrong. And that was my question. There was an event I helped put together where we had people from the medical industry. It was a cybersecurity event. We had CISOs from medical, hospital chains, basically, and one of them was a friend of mine. I asked her at the end, I'm like, so how do you not kill people all the time? Because I see all this metrics driven stuff go real sideways constantly, where you start fixating on the metric and you have Goodhart's law, you have, the Cobra effect, you have all these little things where it's like, oh, now that metric is our target, this is Goodhart's law, it's not useful. It's not measuring anything. Now everyone's trying to optimize that metric or game the metric in some cases. And so the metric now, instead of reflecting the state of the system, it drives the system. And this is like grades in school, right? So you start really focusing on kids' grades, and ideally grades are supposed to, in theory, or, how well do you know a subject? That's the theory. But the reality is, as you start really focusing on grades, kids start cheating, kids start memorizing stuff rather than truly understanding it. You change a test and you actually have a better test that does a better job evaluating kids' knowledge. And they score lower because, the teaching stuff wasn't terribly effective. And suddenly everyone wants to go back to the old test because, the old test, our metrics are going down. We're going to get less funding for our school district. So metrics are really, we should at some point do a whole show. They're really, really dangerous. I've seen a lot of stuff go super sideways because people just fixate on that. And then they start doing whatever makes the number go up or down, depending on what the metric is, rather than what should actually be done to solve the problem. So, and in the medical industry, part of that is just reevaluating. Is that leading you towards your goal or not? And just looking at that constantly.
Okay. So, metrics are useful for hinting, or no, how do we explain this simply? Results over metrics. Achieving our goals is the objective. Metrics can
should be
help us
reevaluated.
get there, but are not the
goal.
Objective themselves.
And should be reevaluated periodically. I won't say frequently, but yeah, they should be reevaluated. Like, is this metric actually reflecting what we care about? Is it reflecting progress toward the goal, or is the metric just some number now?
So evaluating and re-evaluating metrics can help us get there, but are not the goal in itself.
Yeah, we need to protect against that, because I've seen that all these data-driven companies, and I actually toyed with writing an article called Data-Driven Right Off the Cliff or something along those lines. And the problem is when you have people making somewhat arbitrary decisions, you have a C-suite person, CEO, whoever, we're going to do this. Well, deep down, no matter how arrogant, however, whatever the character flaws are, deep down, they know it's somewhat of an arbitrary decision. And so, if something changes, they're willing to go ahead and adapt and change. The problem with metrics is once you're like, oh, well, we're measuring this and this thing made the number go up. And the problem is now they're also beholden to the metrics. And so because now they're fixating, it's like, well, this is actually worse for the customer. So maybe we shouldn't do this. But they're like, well, the metrics say, and it's like, so now you have incompetence backed up by numbers, and it's really hard. Like, people will go right over the cliff, as it were, because, once you fixate, it's hard to get out of that. It's super hard.
Speaking of fixation, I think we've already distilled it down. Let's move on.
Yeah. All right. So next one. What else we got?
Working smart, results over metrics. I think one of the values that I like is conscientiousness. So being conscientious of our potential impact on people. What's a better way of putting that?
It's a good question. I'm trying to think of a clearer way. We also, I'm just writing a few notes here so I don't forget them too.
How do you spell conscientious? I think that's it. I'm going to go into another window and check that. Yeah, I got it.
Or at least detail oriented. But yeah, we want to be conscientious. We want to be accessible. We want to be, we want to correct errors too. Thing is correctness over ego. And I think that's something where a lot of people, that's really toxic too, is when you do find out
over ego,
however you want to put it.
Oh, I see what you're saying though.
Truthfulness, factualness, whatever over ego. Yeah. Not necessarily correctness, but so if we put something out there that's wrong, then we should go back and correct it. And, even if it's like, well, I look like an idiot because I should have done my research.
How about just admit when we're wrong?
It's more than just admit, it's correct it, right? Like, okay, you were wrong. So what is correct? Go do the research, come back, and what is actually, the truth of this situation? Because a lot of people get into going back to what we talked about last episode, arguing to win versus arguing to learn. And people just hate to be wrong. But it's like, you're not going to be 100% right. Like, that's one thing I've learned talking to all different people in different fields. There's always little edge cases that will get you. And whatever you said is not totally correct usually.
Okay, so confessing means to admit you have done something wrong. So how about confess and correct?
Okay. I mean, interesting wording. It sounds almost slightly biblical, but it's okay. It's not wrong.
The Bible uses a lot of words. If we avoid all of them, it's going to be a bad day. And let's be real,
well, technically most of those words were Aramaic, so
well, you don't have to be a follower of the Bible to see
There's
that
good stuff in there.
Confessing is a good idea. Living knowing you've done something wrong and not ever confessing to it, that can wear away at a person. All right, so be conscientious, confess, and correct. So being conscientious, what does that really mean?
Well, yeah. What are you getting at with that? Like I said, I want to be. I think
Consider maybe be considerate. So consider the impact um, of our actions and words upon others. Um, try to do our best. Do or do not. There is no try. Uh, do our best to have a lasting positive. I'm using impact twice now. Do our best to have a lasting positive
more
effect
impactful.
upon the world. Does that sound good?
I think so.
Maybe I like conscientious, and that is
Yeah,
to
no objection there.
consider the impact of our actions and words upon others. Do our best to have a lasting positive effect upon the world. I'm using upon twice too.
Just put it out there now. We'll
On
go clean
others.
up the wording later.
Okay,
That's one
yeah.
thing I've learned that helps you move a lot faster when writing is like always just get it on there. Like I'll usually write something in at least 3 or 4 passes, and the
Okay,
first
yeah,
draft
okay.
will be pretty rough, and
As
then the
long as
second draft is looking decent, and then I'll go move parts around and refine things. And
right. Well, at least we as long as we know what exactly
yeah,
the concept of what we're trying to,
yeah,
convey is. Okay, so confess and correct. Admit when we are wrong and take action to correct it. To make it right. How about that? I hate cyclical definitions. So I don't want confess and correct to mean, well, confess and then correct. Okay.
not a fan of tautology.
Take action to make it right. Okay. Any more values? Let's see here. I'm. If I can't think of one, let's go to some codes of ethics, and we'll come back to it if we can think of more.
Okay. Well, we got 7 minutes if we're keeping this to an hour. So
yeah, exactly. So let's move on to the code of ethics. So honesty. Let me bring back up the code of ethics list I had here. Let me bring up a list of ethics since I can't think of any off the top of my head.
I don't think you were part of the company then, but yeah, that one of the companies we both formerly were larger parts of. Man, well, I can't remember it. It's so long ago, but this one kid, it was the worst interview ever, and they asked an interview question about character, and it was if the project is like months behind schedule, and you have to go have a meeting with the other company, the customer, like the higher up the executives from the customer, what do you do? If your manager tells you to lie about it, what do you do? And there's not really a right answer. You're in a bad situation, and so it's kind of open ended. And the idea is that however someone answers, it shows you what their framework is, like their ethical framework. And I felt so bad. We just almost wanted to hug that kid. Just everything he said was the wrong answer to every question he got asked. He's like, "Oh yeah, I'd go lie to him," and we're like, "That's not the answer we were looking for." Like,
Yeah. What is a good way of saying do your best not to harm? Because do no harm just seems like an impossible ethical goal. We're going to make mistakes, and that's where confess and correct comes in. But, how about just, I don't know, do your
minimize
best.
harm. Yeah.
Minimize harm. Yeah, because
like you said,
I don't feel like do no harm is a realistic goal.
Yeah, you could say try to do no harm, but yeah, you're probably going to mess that up just if you're human.
Right.
There's always situations where, like we were just talking about that one of the talks I gave about open source software, like fully distributed software, and people using it to commit crime. Like if you create that software, it's going to be used to commit harm, but it's about balancing that and making sure that it does more good than bad.
Right.
So
Be inclusive. I don't believe that. I believe in giving people chances, and I do not believe
yeah,
in excluding people, even if they have crazy political ideas, things like that. I've worked with some brilliant people who do good in the world, who have different political ideas from me, and who am I to say whose politics are better than another's? I'm not going to be the judge of that stuff. So be inclusive in all ways.
I guess we're not going to be doing any exclusive content then.
Well, har har. But, I feel like there's a lot of bias still in all of our industries. For example, I don't understand why it is that there are so few trans engineers. There's
Mm.
there's a large growing amount of female engineers, but I know two trans software engineers, and they are wonderful people. They are very talented, and I've had to unfortunately watch their struggles in getting positions, through Facebook and things like that, and that was heartbreaking for me. And I kind of want my own code of ethics to explicitly show that, it's something like come as you are, and to enumerate what that means, that you
Mostly. Oops, small avalanche. I think part of that is, yeah, although I will say that there are some people that, and I'm not talking about gender and stuff now. I'm talking about there's some people it's like, no, do some work on yourself. Like, it gets tricky. I don't think there's a blanket statement you can make. But yeah, I've met some really interesting people all over.
I'm certainly not saying that just because you are a certain way, I'm going to, I'm going to say that you're a great engineer. There's not a correlation between, somebody's gender identity and them being a great engineer or them being a great person. But I also don't believe in I don't believe in just sticking to, say, federal hiring laws on that guidance, because they're behind the times and they are not protecting everybody.
I think when you bring people with interesting viewpoints, there's that's a very broad category.
Celebrate diversity.
Yeah, that's going to be kind of it's become such a loaded term, that specific 2-word phrase. But yeah, having people with different backgrounds on your team helps you have a better product, because they can say, oh, look, that doesn't work for me. There's actually a really good article a few years ago in Hacker News. I forget the original source of the article. I got to dig it back up. But they talked about how the Air Force had this idea of the average man and average woman. And the planes actually didn't have adjustable seats or adjustable anything. And they had measured several thousand people in the Air Force, just literally took tape measure to their body and measured like 10 or 12 different, arm length, all this stuff, leg length, etc. And they were having a whole bunch of crashes, because when you're doing maneuvers in a fighter jet, you're pulling a significant amount of G's. And so think about, if you're straining to reach something, if your arm was 7 times heavier, suddenly you're not straining to reach something, you can't reach it, because it's like you have, a set of weights on your arm. And so this guy was like, well, wait a minute, is there actually this mythical average person? And so he found the same people. He went back and he tried to measure like another few thousand people, and no one, on just 3 dimensions, no one fell. I think only a very small number out of 3,000 people fell within all 3 dimensions on the average, like within that average range. And when you expanded it to 4 or more, no one out of several thousand was average on at least 4 dimensions. And so they went back and they said, we need to have adjustable seats. We need to have stuff where this can accommodate, different hand sizes, different arm lengths, different leg lengths. And even fighter pilots, which are kind of selected to be smaller generally because they fit in the cockpit better. Even within that, again, wide variability. And it was really interesting. And as soon as I did this, the accidents went way down. So this idea that there is a average person, like a lot of times when you start looking, the other example that's kind of less cool but more relevant to most people is, you know, the OXO good grips, you know, the can openers and all the just the kitchen stuff they sell at Target. Those were designed initially for people who were elderly, who had arthritis and stuff. So the handles were a lot bigger and a lot more padded and made so you needed to use a lot less force to operate. And dude, those things have sold like crazy. And there
Right.
was another thing I just heard of today. I forget what the product was, where again, they're starting developing this. A lot of times we find out when you develop something to be accessible to people who are not, quote, normal, a lot of times, dude, it sells like crazy. It's better for everyone. And so again, if you don't have anyone, if you just have very, very homogenous team and you don't have anyone who's outside the quote normal range, you're not going to even think of those things. There's no way you're going to come up with that. And so by having a team with, you know, really interesting and different backgrounds, you can solve a lot more problems a lot more optimally for a lot more people. And I think that is kind of a secret sauce that, you know, people still look at it as checking boxes or playing the diversity game. It's not that. Like, you need a team. The whole point of having more than one person is to have vastly different backgrounds and knowledge bases and ways of operating so that you can solve a problem. You can look at it from multiple sides and find a solution that's really good for everyone.
Okay.
Companies that are selling globally, like, you got to have this.
Okay. So how about this? Be your genuine self. I don't want anybody feeling like they need to act in some sort of corporate professional way. And the other side of that is accept and respect differences. If you're going to work with us, you're going to have to accept and respect that you're going to have differences with other people, and speak up. Speak up is really one of the things I was thinking of, which can go positively, or, you know, it can be a call out. It can be either speak up when you have a cool idea, or it can also be speak up when you see something wrong, and let yourself be heard.
I hate to say, but I don't want to dwell on this too long because there's so much nuance. It's such a heated topic right now. It would take many episodes to really cover it and do it justice.
Well, let's not get off to too bad of a rabbit trail there.
Let's leave that alone for right now. I think that's decent. I think we got some good stuff. We'll just move on.
Okay, so I think we haven't really solidified it. There's still some work to do. And there might be a lot more we want to talk about when it comes to code of ethics and values. I think this is a good start, though. So maybe let's make this a part 1, a part 2. We'll have a part 2 on the values and the code of ethics again, and finish out this document and complete it on the next episode. Okay. Sound good to you?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how much we want to do meta content like this. I think we want to get back into some other content too. I was looking at President Obama in the chat there. He had a question about automation, several questions about automation. So I don't know if we want to address those. I think at some point it's probably good to do an episode about the pros and cons of automation. And we've talked about it a little bit on previous episodes, but yeah, we could do a whole thing on what is that going to look like? What is that going to do to jobs? What are the trends that are going to happen in the short and the medium term? So like the next 5 years versus the next 15 years.
The trends can change.
Sure.
We can say where is it trending right now, but it could change by tomorrow or the next year. So okay, fine. I do want to finish this though. So maybe what we can do is finish this. See, the thing is though, is that I want to do this completely transparently. I want the whole entire process that we went through for creating this document to be documented. I want we can point people back here so they can see exactly how we arrived at this company DNA. And anybody, for the rest of the time of this company, they're going to be able to see our thought patterns, what we considered. And this, I think, is going to be useful for future contributors to know how to improve it and know how to help us improve it. So I would like to finish this. This is the second episode of our recording session. So if we could just finish up this week by completing this, then I think you're right. Let's try our very best not to have any more meta content for now. We will build because I think everyone can sort of trust us to develop the shows on our own without having to do that. Our original idea was we were going to do the documents for each of the 2 shows we have in mind, which is this one and another one called Code Gym, which we're going to be putting together. And we'll just not do that. We'll just develop the shows in private. We'll go back to non-meta content, but I do want to finish this so this way it is a complete set and a complete documentation of what, or a documentary of what we've done. Sound good?
Okay, yeah, sorry, I had to unmute.
Oh, I thought you were just like hesitating.
No. I had it muted. I'm like, whoa, gotta unmute. Yeah, I have I can't tell how fast it actually mute. I have a cool little system script, but anyway, I can't tell if it takes 3 seconds or is instant. So
yeah, maybe you need a Stream Deck, dude. Yeah,
no,
Alio's been resisting the Stream Deck.
The key thing is, like I said, I have a little indicator, and unfortunately, I might have to find a different solution. I was looking at little indicator lights, like little USB lights that can change color. Dude, those things are expensive. Like, those things are really expensive for stupid light. I mean, I guess they're not that much. They're like $30 to $60, but it's just a light. Like, come on, man. Anyway, so I have a little indicator up in my menu bar, but for whatever reason that I don't like, Bitbar seems like it's usually pretty quick. It's a neat little thing on Mac OS, but I think it's the Apple script thing. I don't know. I got to look at what's taken so long. It takes it about 3 seconds to actually update the status. That seems like that should be pretty instantaneous.
All right. So let's just recap real quick what we got done tonight. On the next episode at the end, we'll read the whole thing in full. So if you haven't been following along the whole time, no worries. We'll do a full readout of everything, especially those of you who are going to be listening on the podcast. I know we're working on a document, and it can sometimes be frustrating that you're not being able to see what we're seeing, but we will do a full readout of everything. And right now, I'll just read out what we got done tonight, which is we established our mission statement and committed to it. And our mission statement for Fault Tolerant, Fault Tolerant's mission is to produce quality, appealing content that helps people understand and adapt to the age of automation. Our values statement so far is to work smart, which means to accomplish the task on time at a high standard of quality with the least amount of effort. Results over metrics, which means achieving our goals is the objective. Evaluating and reevaluating metrics can help us get there, but are not goals itself. Are not the goal itself. I didn't write that right. Next is be conscientious. Consider the impact of our actions and words on others. Do our best to have a lasting positive effect upon the world. Confess and correct. Admit when we are wrong and take action to make it right. And then for our code of ethics, so far we have be honest to ourselves and to our audience. Do our best. Well, I guess this is talking to somebody, so I'll read you what we have written down, which is be honest, do your best, minimize harm, be your genuine self, accept and respect differences, and speak up. This isn't complete, but we're hoping that we can complete it by the end of the next episode. So stick around, everybody, and join us next time for the conclusion of all of this. Anything you want to say before we go, Alio?
Yeah, I don't have too much else to add, so looks like a decent document. So, yeah, that's all I got.
All righty. Well, I want to thank everybody out there for sticking with us on this. I know this is some meta content, and it's not really the same kind of stuff as we usually do, but I think that it's, it's important for us to do it, and I've been insisting, that we get this done. So, all right. That's the end of our show. That's all of our time. But on behalf of everybody at Fault Tolerant, I want to thank you for watching or listening. This show is only possible due to the generous contributions of our subscribers and our sponsor, EGX, which is a nonprofit that cultivates the Arizona tech community. I'm learning how to say that right. Code and Chaos is recorded live with audience interaction every Saturday, usually. And then we release each of the episodes on Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday at 10 a.m. Mountain Time. If you enjoyed the show, please consider subscribing or rating the show on Twitch or YouTube. It really helps us out to reach more people. You can also rate us on your favorite podcasting app. Until next time, take care, keep washing your hands, and don't break your tech if it doesn't work right. Good night, folks.